this episode we are actually going a little bit more real and personal. I'm going to tell you what are the 5 habits that I have adopted in order to overcome fear, anxiety, and panic attack. Hi, my name is Ophelie, and if you don't know me, I am a holistic coach and an aerialist. I've been struggling with anxiety and depression and panic attacks since as old as 8 years old. And I've had to come with quite a few habits in my life to try and cope. Obviously, as everything, it's been a lot of ebb and flows. And, you know, like everybody else, goes ups and down. But over the last few years, I'm quite happy to have found ways to really manage and build better coping mechanisms and a healthier routine for myself. So what I want to do today is actually share my 5 habits that I found were the most helpful in healing and in finding a way to recovery. So I'm just going to go through the 5 habits that we are going to discuss. The first one is that I get real with my condition, with my fear, anxiety, panic attacks. The second one is that I learn to eliminate unhealthy habits that can be sabotaging my mental health. The third habit is that I take control of my mind and thought. It's not what you think, it's a little bit more than just what it says as the title. The fourth one is that I do things to add value, that adds value to my life. And the last one is I have a vision for my life that excites me. So the first one is getting real with fear, anxiety, and panic attacks. So this is also valid, you know, for any other condition. I find that figuring out what is actually happening already helps. So quite a few of my friends, you know, recently, especially women, get diagnosed with ADHD. So for me, I've got complex PTSD, anxiety disorder, anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but that's something that I'm thinking of looking at in the future as well. I've got OCD, so I do have a lot of compulsive habits as well. Like one of them is to be quite fiddly with my fingers, as you can see. Skin picking is one of them. And just also to remind you that I'm not a trained professional. Yeah, I'm not a psychologist. This is basically what I'm going through and what's really helped me. So for me, I found that most value in terms of getting real with it is just actually accepting that you are feeling this way and getting the help that you need. So I've decided to invest into therapy since last year because of the pandemic and the lockdown, and my nervous system was heavily dysregulated. And no matter how much I was trying to bring healthy coping mechanism, my nervous system was dysregulated like many of us. So if you already had a condition that could affect you, the pandemic has only made it worse, regardless of how well you were doing or how hard it's been for you, how easy or hard it's been for you. And for me, finding therapy and feeling the support was absolutely life-saving. The only thing is I had to make the choice to invest, so I had to decide, you know, that I wanted to invest into therapy. Now, not everyone has got the budget. You know, don't get me wrong, it is difficult to always pay for a therapist, but the same way you'd get, for me, I think that the same way I'd get a coach to get myself better into a certain skill or a certain performance, I need to get this in my life just for support, for self-discovery, self-growth, and yeah, just self-growth is quite important to me. So in the show notes, there would be the link to the blog related to that video, that podcast, that episode. and you'd be able to find some links that I have sourced that were coming from my counselors and my support team, to try and find more affordable options at the beginning, because I was struggling like everybody else in the pandemic. As a self-employed person, I didn't necessarily have the budget, so I did have to find the options that work for me. So also what I find was very helpful is journaling on a daily basis. I try to journal daily, but I specifically try to journal when I feel more anxious, or when it's important to journal even when things are going well, because you can get a really nice sense of perspective. But journaling as well when things are not going well, because it has a bit of a cathartic effect, and it will also help you document when you speak to your professional. It helps also to find clarity when you have a stressful day, a bad night, when your diet has gone down the drain. It's kind of good to actually visualize that. So when you discuss with, again, your therapist, your counselor, it brings a bit more clarity, and you start taking a bit more ownership. It's very, very important to take ownership. There is one thing that I find very important is to stop identifying yourself with your situation, your condition, and actually consider that you are reclaiming power over it. So doing this, taking this action, are a way to reclaiming agency over your condition. You are not your condition. This is not, it's part of you, but it's not your identity. And I find that this is one of the most important things that I keep telling myself every day. So a lot of factors can be contributing to anxiety, your diet, the caffeine, everything. And it's not just like stress, depression. There's a lot of stuff to unpack for all of us, especially after the pandemic. But what I found with the pandemic that was quite useful as well is realizing how much of my healing was still incomplete. Every time you do certain things, you realize down the line that you still have more healing to do and more to learn, and it's a very interesting concept that it took a completely different overturn in the way we lived for 2 years to realize that. The second habit is eliminating unhealthy habits that are sabotaging my mental health. So obviously I'm going to get real, I'm going to get hot here. First of all, if you're watching this video, if you are listening to this episode, you already have a bit of self-awareness about what is unhealthy for you. Not every single habit is easier to identify. But it's not just like realizing that you don't eat well, that you don't exercise, that you don't sleep well. Those are like kind of obvious, or when you start using drugs, or when you start falling into alcohol, any other kind of addiction, self-harming, anything that is a bit more harmful to your body, and just kind of self-destructive behavior, right? So obviously that's like going towards the extreme, and when that goes towards the extreme, please seek out help quite immediately, because the NHS can be long if you are in a position where you live a healthy lifestyle like me. Referral would take about 18 months to get the right amount of help, which is why I invested myself into the therapy, because a year and a half is not something I was ready to wait for. But if you really see that you are getting into the harmful behavior that can put you in danger, you have to contact, you have to get in touch, pray instantly, and they're more they refer you a lot faster. Yeah, so just bear in mind that they refer you a lot faster for this. Okay, remember that identifying your unhealthy and toxic coping mechanisms are an act of rebellion for your condition. It's again part of reclaiming the power and deciding that you are no longer accepting that this is what keeps you alive. And let me tell you, again, we're unpacking and we're being honest here. I have used drugs, I have used alcohol, I have used hypersexuality as coping mechanisms when I was younger. I wasn't able to figure out that there were a coping mechanism. Now that I understand what was the situation and why I did this, I learned to accept and try and let go of the shame. But I'm also refusing to kind of fall back into them. So it is difficult because, you know, my skin picking habit is a form of stimming and a coping mechanism. It's not necessarily healthy because, you know, I don't like having my fingers butchered at the end of the day. There's a lot of things that I'm still, you know, working through, and just remember that it's a process. But when you really decide to take charge and reclaim your self-respect, again, you disidentify with your condition and you reclaim power over it. So there are habits that, you know, kept me alive for a few years, but I've decided that they no longer serve me, and they're no longer the person that I want to be. They no longer serve the person that I aspire to be in the future. And that's, you know, even last year when I knew what was going on, I made better decisions for myself that I would have if I had a crisis maybe 5-6 years ago. So a few sneaky habits that you might not see as harmful, but that could be. So I'm going to list the one that I found were harmful for me, and I've had to unlearn and decondition, and I'm still working towards that. Okay. So the scrolling on social media is one of the big ones, especially, you know, me as a content creator, is still necessary that, you know, I use social media for my work. However, the mindless scrolling and following people that make me feel bad about myself or that affect my sense of self-worth, I've started really being a bit more mindful about who I follow and who inspires me, who I find inspiring, and I try to follow people that I find more I aspire to be. Okay, so I try to feel less. How can I say that? So I try to not. Again, you don't want to compare yourself, so you can use them as a source of inspiration. But I've had to understand and to accept the fact that, you know, I don't want to become these people. I want to become me with some of the positive side that I'd like to identify with, you know. But I've had to remove a lot of toxic people, not people, but, you know, accounts and things that were not serving me again. And this is kind of important, I think, that we educate and that we try to encourage younger people to do this, because also once you start identifying with your condition, when you have anxiety, when you have panic attack, when you have ADHD, when you have this sort of thing, you tend to want to indulge and use it to give yourself excuses for not getting out of it. So we're going back to identifying with your condition. Sometimes social media can reinforce the identification, and you start identifying yourself too much, and then it can give way for you to and for your condition to pull you back. Yeah, so you got to imagine your condition as someone a person that is part of you, so like, you know, someone that's very close to you, but you have to put healthy boundary with. So you can't get rid of that person, but you won't let that person drag you down. And sometimes social media can do that. Social media can really pull you back and make you just reattach and re-identify with your condition quite strongly. So this is from my personal experience, and this is from observing sometimes other people doing the same thing as I do. So we indulge in the condition, and it really is not actually helpful. You have to like really find what is helpful is in taking you out there. It's important to bring better awareness of what it is, you know, and learn about it, but in order to move on and grow out of it. And sometimes the social media can actually pull you back, and you indulge and you let yourself fall back into that hole. And I found that was quite recurrent with me. So I think it's important to break that cycle. So the other one that I found was partaking in gossip and letting myself be in drama. My life was as exciting as it was. I've done a lot of things when I was young. I've had different careers in my life. So I travel the world. It's like I've had different lives, and it's been great. And I've met a lot of people. And at home we had a lot of. We used to help a lot of people as well at home when I was younger. We had, people that used to like need to stay at home because they didn't have a house. So my life was quite chaotic, and you could easily fall into our family arguments, drama. There is generational trauma. There is stuff that you carry from your family, your mother, your grandmother, like your grandparents, and it also falls back into that sort of identifying and not letting it go, and not kind of like putting this boundary and breaking that cycle. And in general, this can happen. This can happen at work. This can happen with your friend. You just end up in those dramatic situations. You end up into gossiping, and it's just a chaotic and energy that's not very productive. It's very draining. It drains a lot of your energy out, but it's actually not useful. So what I usually suggest is putting boundaries with this kind of situation, and actually use that energy towards something more positive, something that you feel is more fulfilling than gossiping or letting yourself fall into drama, arguments, and gossiping. Again, that's what I found. That's what helped me, and that's my opinion. Being a people pleaser, big one. Letting other invade your space. Giving too much, saying yes to too many commitment, not holding any boundaries for yourself, not holding boundaries for friends. It's quite important that if you want to take your rest, if you feel like someone is just asking too much of you, you can just take that space. I think for me, that's like a massive learning curve, and I'm still basically learning. So yes, people pleasing, big one. Big habits that we're trying to remove. Now we're going to go into the third habit. The third habit is the one that when I said I take control of my mind and thought. So when you suffer with anxiety, controlling is a very big part, because that's when your brain doesn't feel safe. So you try and find every bit that make you feel safe, so your brain is a little bit more at ease and your anxiety can kind of subside. Okay, so there are many ways to feel like you regain control. Only you can establish that. This is really important. Again, we are going to unpack. Very important, because only you know what you need. Okay, so if you do step 1 and step 2, you focus on your self-growth, you focus on bringing self-awareness, being real with yourself, being real with what's negatively impacting your life and making your condition worse. And then only you know what is going to help you get better most of the time. If you get professional support, obviously, you'll be guided and you'll be able to understand this a bit more. During the pandemic, my panic attacks were daily, and they were pretty strong, and I was quite unable to control them. So last year in May, exactly, that's about a year ago, I decided to go on the meds for the first time in my life. Yeah. I was getting panic attacks just sitting down on my desk, and I think it was there was monotony behind it. There was something of not, going around. Also, there is another habit is the workaholism as well. Workaholism is also one coping mechanism that I'm trying to break. I love my job and all that, but I do have to find, I've been building and I've been working on finding more balance in my life. But because of that, the fact that I'm not moving around as much, it really impacted me during the pandemic, and I was really struggling. So going with the med again was my way for me to reclaim power over my mental health. So I did not feel guilty and I did not feel ashamed to go that way. And I really want you to understand that if that's the way you feel, you should really not feel like it's an issue, or you should not be scared of being judged. And if you have people that judge you, then again, putting boundary is very important, because when you're in when you're down the gutter and when you're like at your worst, making that decision for yourself is again reclaiming agency, reclaiming self-respect, and stopping harming yourself. So deciding to live and deciding to live differently. I've come off the meds now. For me, I knew it was temporary, and for me, I knew that I wasn't. It was something to kind of like use as a crutch for the time being, and it's helped me, and I'm happy to be off them. But I just want to make sure that you know, and I hope that, you know, knowing that people like me went for them, I'm quite happy to share my experience, because I think it's still heavily stigmatized. And yes, antidepressants, they're not the best medication. No medication is the best to take on a regular basis, but just like any other medication, they can be life-saving in that situation. Only you can make that informed decision, speaking to professionals, and figure out what are the next steps to feel better. So the fourth habit is I do things that add value to my life. So if you've done step one, you know, getting real, getting the help. Step two, removing and learning how to remove unhealthy, identifying and removing unhealthy coping mechanism. Number three, you then find what will really help take the next step forward. Number four is doing things that add value. So now that you worked out effectively what is detrimental to your mental health, and you make a plan to remove all the blockages, the limitation. Now it's time to make space and replace that space. We made space for it, and use that space to build a healthy coping mechanism. So just make sure as well that there are habits that you put incrementally. Don't kind of slam a lot of million things. But I've got habits for me that I found were the most helpful, and again, they didn't come where I've been doing them every day or every week consistently. There's something that I've slowly built, and again, I've used support. I'm a coach myself, so I know how to find that accountability. Just make sure that maybe you ask someone to help stay accountable, or share that habit with them as well. So I'm going to list my favorite. The first one is meditation. Obviously, not everyone is able to sit down and just be still. Remember as well, again, that when I'm doing when I'm in the middle of full-blown panic attack, I will try and calm my racing thought, but I'm just like everybody else, I just have to ride that wave. So doing mindfulness at that time can be very difficult even for me. But meditating every day for me has been life-changing. So I do it when I wake up in the morning. Sometimes I do it before I go to bed. But now I go and do them about half an hour, between 10 minutes and half an hour, depending on how much time I have. But I started with 5 minutes, and you can start with minutes, just sitting, breathing for a minute throughout the day. And what you can do as well is mindfulness. So like taking the time to observe what you do mindfully. An example would be cooking, taking the time to cook and really observing the colors, the smells, the taste, everything. If you drink a drink, for example, I've got this beautiful tea, practicing mindfulness would be to, instead of like guzzling it down in like 1 second, it would be to just take a sip and really appreciate the feeling of the sparkling, on my tongue. The color pink is beautiful, the flavors, that sort of thing. So these are like mindfulness, and you can just start there by learning how to be a bit more present. Journaling, I'm still trying to do it on the daily. I don't necessarily do it every day, but for example, I got assaulted on Monday, and I journaled twice because I just really wanted to not go to bed and carry that with me to bed. So I kind of journal, and I find that journaling has this very good impact as well. It helps me when I have a session as well to write down what I've taken from the session. It's a very nice self-discovery journey. I like to use prompts, but again, it's also something that can take a while to build up. Exercising, obviously, we discussed that. Even 5 minutes of movement just will make a difference to your life. You will all know it creates the endorphins, it helps with neurotransmitters, it helps with a lot of things. If you're not sure how to build a healthy route and sustainable routine, when you're a little bit having a bit of a hard time with your mental health, I've created another blog that will be released, so check that out, and you can find out as well the best way to set yourself for success without feeling overwhelmed. Healthy eating habits, there is no secret. And there will be also another blog where I discuss supplementation that can help your mental health. But obviously, healthy eating habits help with good digestion, limiting state of inflammation. And we all know that a state of inflammation increased depression and anxiety. So it's very important. It's a lot more important than you can imagine. So really get real with that. Really get real with the fact of like how healthy is your diet. Sleep, there's another one. Sleep, have a really bad night of sleep and you are screwed. If you already have anxiety and panic attacks and you don't sleep well, it's going to make your life hell. So if you can try and work through having a good 7 to 8 hours of sleep, it will be very important. I'm not going to go too deep in that. I'm currently reading this book from Matthew Walker called Why We Sleep, and he explains really what are the different stages for and what they are useful for. So missing stages of sleep can be really detrimental and can really have a negative impact on your health, but also on your mental health. So really be aware of that. Find what makes you, again, I like to create a mini ritual at night the same way I like to create a ritual in the morning. If you create a ritual at night, I like to have pillow mist, I like to have incense. It's night now that I'm filming this, yeah, so I've even put incense just to kind of like get a bit more in the mood. I do face masks before I go to bed. There's a lot of like little rituals, and I try to not look at my phone while I am in bed. I basically try and put my phone and just either read a book or watch something on the computer, but I will just like watch an episode and then I'll pull the thing. No more social media before bed, no more checking emails, no more looking at anything on the phone that might just overactivate or get my brain to overthink while I'm trying to sleep. This has been my nemesis because I worked nights most of my life and I work late nights, so re-establishing a habit for me to understand that 11 o'clock is the time you go to bed and midnight is the time you should be sleeping maximum is already quite hard. I'm trying to get to fall asleep at like 11 and 10. It's now 11:30 and I'm still here. But it's all a learning process, understanding what really helps you. Then there is also mindfully socializing without overloading. With my job, I socialize a lot. My day started at 9. I've already been filming 3 of these today. This is my 4th. I've had 2 online clients. I've had 1 person clients, and I've taught 2 classes. So at the end of the day, and sometimes if I have a day off, I don't necessarily want to engage with a lot of people. But socializing can be also very uplifting. So it's all about choosing the people that will actually help uplift you. And I know that sounds very arrogant, but when you're struggling with your mental health, you have to understand how, you understand quite well how fragile that state can be and how fragile it is to maintain that balance. So be radical with yourself and be strict, and don't be shy in putting the boundaries when they're necessary, and also don't be shy in asking to create more mindful connections when you want them. And the last one for me is taking out time alone. So as I said, I need to recharge my batteries. Very important, because otherwise I just get tired and more tired and more tired, and I burn out, and then I don't have energy to give anymore. You know, we always say you can't pour from an empty cup, and if you're already struggling mentally, giving your spoons to someone else can just only make it worse for you. Last but not least, I have a vision for my life that excites me. For me, that's also a big catalyst. You know, finding clarity on what you want and who you want to become is very important. And especially if you have depression, if you have anxiety, it's very hard to see in the future. We tend to, with depression, we dwell on the past, and with anxiety, we just always worry about the future. But I've learned, because I think a lot about the future, I've learned to actually get more excited about it rather than scared. And I've learned to train my mind to get more into a state of abundance and excitement rather than a state of scarcity. And that's really been useful because I come from a background of not having a lot of money at home. And I again lived most of my young years where I didn't really know how to be savvy. I'm still learning. I'm in my late 30s and I'm self-employed, so things go up and down a lot. But living in a different mindset state in terms of abundance and in terms of what I want to do with my life and the vision that I have for myself is extremely important, because it gives me the discipline, it gives me the drive, and it gives me the passion to not let my condition take over me. So when that's why I went for the meds, for example. I don't want to wait. I don't want to waste my time. And what I do with every emotions and feelings that I have is acknowledging them and just be like, I don't want this to waste my day. I have a very exciting day ahead. I have a lot of things to look forward. Going back to the journaling as well is making sure that you every day you remember it. If you don't remember what you did yesterday, and if you don't have a vision for what you have tomorrow, things get blurry, things lose definition, and yeah, it just kind of it just becomes a blur, and you don't feel that there is a purpose behind anything, and that's kind of getting you to fall back into those old habits and like giving up on yourself. So having this kind of, you know, having goals and really implementing action. And again, that's where my OCD loves it. My OCD loves the planning phase, because I look at, you know, calendars, and I book days, and I go back into my milestones. So whereas it's like a training plan, it's a marketing, it's my business plan, anything, I just like to plan things that are getting me very, very excited, and I just make sure I document everything in my journal. So when someone said, "What did you eat yesterday?" I can fully remember. I want to really feel and live through the day enough that I will remember what I did, who I called, who I spoke to, and what I've eaten. That's part of mindfulness too. But everything just kind of feed into each other. And those 5 habits really, when you implement them, it's really changed my life. And I know that, as we say, it's not linear, and healing is, for me, is a lifelong journey, but it's also part of self-discovery, and it's also part of giving yourself more love and more respect, and I think that's a beautiful thing to do as well. So understanding what makes your mental health better each and every day is also part of the discovery. It's also a beautiful thing to do. I hope that you found that helpful. We unpacked a lot. This one was probably one of the longest episodes I've ever recorded, and I really want to show my appreciation for listening and watching. If you're watching this video, there is a lot to unpack here. I just want you to remember that we are human. I'm human, and you know, the things that I give are the things that help. And I've got bad days too, and that doesn't mean that there won't be days where the panic attacks are going to come back and when life is going to get hard. But I know that I've managed and I know that I can make it get better. So remember that you have the link to that blog, you'll have the link to the help, and also all the link for if you have to contact an emergency. But if you have any question or if you want to comment, please feel free to send me a message, an email on Instagram, email, Facebook, anywhere. Reach out, and I would love to hear as well what are your habits, what you find really helpful, because I think it's important to bring more awareness of what really helps. A lot of people talk about what make it worse and identifying, but I think finding what helps is a lot more useful, and I think it's also bringing more positivity to how we can all heal together and help each other heal. So share this with people that you know might benefit from it. Comment and let me know what are your habits, and let's just try and be there for each other. And I hope that I will see you and speak to you very soon. Thank you so much again for your support, and I'll say bye now.